Now we review case law for the Love Canal, Niagara Falls, New York, 1970s case. Love Canal is one of the most infamous cases of environmental contamination in the United States. It involved the discovery of toxic chemical waste buried beneath a residential neighborhood, leading to widespread health issues among residents. This incident catalyzed the passage of Superfund legislation, which established a fund for cleaning up hazardous waste sites. Smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. All started as residents became more and more aware of their homes and community was sitting on 20,000 tons of toxic chemicals due to Hooker Chemical Company leaving behind chemical dump site with various chemical wastes, including toxic substances such as benzene, dioxins, carbon tetrachloride, chloroform, lindane, methylene chloride, trichloroethylene, toluene, and polychlorinated biphenyls, PCBs, leaching from the abandoned canal, many of which are known to cause cancer, chronic diseases, and even death. For instance, dioxin, 2,3,7,8-tetrachlorodibenzoyl is considered one of the most toxic man-made compounds based on animal experimental studies. Airborne contamination caused asthmatic and other respiratory conditions. Chlorobenzene and chlorotoluene showed definite clusters of contamination in homes immediately adjacent to the canal, with less evidence of contamination further out. Hexachlorocyclohexane and fly ash contamination was found in the elementary school baseball field. Sharp increases in toxic vapor levels occur following a rainfall, and whether areas of land evidences higher toxin levels and chemical migration may have been more easily transported with groundwater. Where utility pipes were backfilled with clay instead of gravel, the contaminants migration was reduced further away from canal. Overall, high clay content soil throughout the areas impeded migration of chemicals over sand and gravel areas. Homes built on historically wet areas had more issues of toxins over historically dry properties. Smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Given the complex environment of chemical wastes deposited in the canal, the problem here is also the synergistic effects of all the toxins' combined impacts to the community. In the 1950s, portions of the canal were covered with dirt and sold to the Niagara Falls Board of Education for $1 and a disclaimer about chemical wastes in which they are supposedly dissolved of any future liability for. The Board of Education built an elementary school, 800 private single-family homes, and 240 low-income apartments on the property despite warnings from Hooker Chemical about the potential hazards of the site. Over time, homes and a school were built atop the buried chemical waste, unknown to the residents. By the 1970s, the toxic chemicals buried beneath Love Canal began to seep into basements and yards, causing foul odors and visible signs of environmental contamination. Homeowners were never given notice that their property was located near a chemical waste dump. Residents repeatedly complained of odors and substances surfacing within their property and on the school playground. The city responded to complaints by covering the substances with dirt or clay. Residents reported alarming rates of health issues, including birth defects, miscarriages, and chronic illnesses such as asthma and cancer. Activist groups raised awareness of the environmental and health hazards posed by Love Canal. Finally, consultants were hired to investigate. In 1976, the Calspan Corporation found toxic chemical residues in the air and sump pumps of many homes and chemical drums just beneath or on the surface, and high levels of PCBs in the storm sewer system. The problem is Calspan's mitigation recommendations were not sufficiently followed by city. New York State Department of Health, NISTO, began collecting air and soil tests. They found an increase in reproductive problems among women and high levels of chemical contaminants in soil and air. Parents with sick children looked to transfer their children to another public school, but requests were denied. Their children were sick, their homes were worthless, and they were innocent victims. Protests occurred in response even throughout freezing winter weather. Initially, 239 families were evacuated. A safety plan and $200,000 human services fund to pay some of the residents' medical expenses was created, but residents ignored concessions. They wanted to be evacuated too. Smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. In 1979, studies evidenced miscarriages, stillbirths, crib deaths, nervous breakdowns, hyperactivity, epilepsy, and urinary tract disorders. Miscarriages increased 300%, especially for women who lived in the historically wet areas. From 1974 to 1978, 56% of the children in the Love Canal neighborhood were born with a birth defect, including 3 ears, a double row of teeth, and mental retardation. Almost 3 times as many defects occurred in historically wet areas. In 1978, the environmental crisis at Love Canal gained national attention. Finally, in October of 1980, a total evacuation of the community was ordered by President Carter. Everyone who lived at the Love Canal had the option of moving away, with the government purchasing their homes at fair market value. When President Jimmy Carter declared a federal health emergency and ordered the evacuation of over 833 families, extensive media coverage, public outrage, increased scrutiny of industrial pollution, and government regulation of hazardous waste disposal occurred. The Love Canal disaster played a pivotal role in shaping environmental policy in the United States. In response to the crisis, Congress passed the Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation, and Liability Act, CERCLA, in 1980, which set forth the Superfund to finance the cleanup of hazardous waste sites, including Love Canal, and hold polluters accountable for the costs of remediation. The EPA identifies the potentially responsible parties, PRPs, that created hazardous sites and requires them to fund and/or manage the cleanups. Smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. The legacy of Love Canal was based on severe impacts on the health and well-being of its residents that stood as a catalyst for greater public awareness of environmental hazards, the need for stricter regulations on toxic waste disposal, and the importance of community activism in holding polluters and government agencies accountable for environmental justice. Comment below. Do you have any experience with toxins being found in your community? How was it handled? We took actions to mitigate issues. What do you think about the story of Love Canal? Please do like, share, subscribe, and comment below to help support this channel and help me succeed so I can post for videos for you. Thank you all for joining me. Talk to you soon on the next one. Feel free to check out Level Up with Alyssa Mahan YouTube channel to level up your life in a more personalized way. See you there. Click on the on-screen images to subscribe and watch more videos.